quite unfair to remain in the competition.
You know what I think is unfair? That you're saying this.
There have been a lot of shows that have honestly defied expectations in regards to going and having mini seasons on TV, despite its simpler, downright basic premise. Some of these shows have even lasted multiple decades, one of which is the famous and infamous America's Next Top Model, hosted by none other than Tyra Banks. The show, which she admittedly would only last 2 seasons, has actually gone on for 24 seasons, and it may still go on. But whether you want to admit it or not, this show has gotten crazy at times. So allow us to show you the huge scandals that rocked America's Next Top Model. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 8. We Were All Rooting for You. One might think that on a show full of divas who are looking to be major models, that it would just be the contestants that have outbursts that make headlines. But ironically, nothing is ever that simple in television, and as such, one of the first major scandals was that of host Tyra Banks going off in a moment that is remembered to this day. This happened in season 4, where Tiffany Richardson and another contestant were sent home in the same episode. A rarity for the series, but it has happened a few times. Richardson did her best to remain unbothered despite losing, and that didn't go well. Why? Because that's when Banks accused Richardson of taking the competition as a joke, but Richardson claimed she was just sick of crying and being disappointed. After that, Banks unleashed the shriek of millions of failed models who didn't even get a fraction of the opportunity.
I was rooting for you! We were all rooting for you! How dare you!
It was harsh, and the supermodel judge admitted, "I have never in my life yelled at a girl like this." But yell she did, and the line of "I was rooting for you, we were all rooting for you, how dare you," is now an iconic meme and a moment from the series, showing that you don't just have to fear the contestants acting out, you have to fear the host getting ticked as well. Number 7. Janice Dickinson versus Tyra Banks. Yep, another Tyra one, and yes, it is another classic. Janice Dickinson and Tyra Banks' long-standing feud is perhaps one of the few America's Next Top Model scandals that seem to be made of Teflon. The drama kicked off in 2005 when Dickinson, who served as the series' Simon Cowell, left the show's judging panel to pursue other opportunities, according to Entertainment Weekly. She was replaced by 60s icon Twiggy, and fans scrambled to figure out if Dickinson was fired or quit. Not surprisingly, Janice left clues for people to find in order to suss out what happened, and it got uglier with each year that passed.
Zip it!
One year she said she was fired, another time she said she left because the show was rigged, and another time she said she left because of Tyra's personality and that she was cold. It was never ending, until Oprah got involved and Dickinson admitted the following. "I've said some pretty bad things about her in the past because I had been fired," she said during an apology, "and I was very hurt that I had been fired, and so I acted out. But that's not when I was acting in a sober-like fashion. At least there was some closure, even if it took its sweet time. That is the power of Oprah for you." Number 6. Mirjana Puhar. Sadly, when you have a show that goes on for a long stretch of time, you're bound to have tragedies happen, and one of them occurred in 2015 with the death of Mirjana Puhar. She was a former contestant on the show, and her life was taken alongside her boyfriend in their room in a very violent altercation involving drugs and money. Now, it is hard to say who all was at fault, and the killer was arrested and charged with multiple accounts of murder. In an interview with the Charlotte Observer, Mirjana spoke about fleeing from war-torn Serbia with her family, skipping school, getting into fights, and working at McDonald's, before finding herself on America's Next Top Model.
I have everything that America's Next Top Model is looking for, so why not pick me?
It's sad to see that her struggle ended in a way that was not just tragic, but preventable. But that's just how it goes, sadly. The arrest of Renee Allway. If you think this was the only contestant to get into trouble after being on America's Next Top Model, you would be very wrong. And unlike Puhar, who was a victim in a crime, Renee Allway was very much the perpetrator in her crime that very much got her arrested and put behind bars. According to TMZ, the model was arrested in 2013 for a sprawling list of charges, following a 6-hour armed police standoff that involved a SWAT team. Per the report, police found Allway hiding with a gun in the garage of a home that was supposed to be vacant after receiving a call about a suspicious female lurking around. Allway was later booked for suspicion of burglary, fraud, possession of narcotics, forged bills, and committing a felony while on bail. The latter charge was related to her arrest a month prior when she was charged with possession of drug paraphernalia, petty theft, and fraud. She was sentenced to 12 years in jail, but got out in 2019 and quickly got into trouble again. Clearly, Top Model picks the most stable of contestants. Number 4. The All-Star Scandal. Okay, this one is both hilarious, ironic, and kind of controversial on the part of the show, so we'll break it down step by step. In 2011, America's Next Top Model decided to go and do an all-star show that featured past models who didn't get the win but deserved a second chance at getting the crown.
716 is back.
This included Angela Preston, who was a standout from season 14 of the show. True to the All-Stars' intention, she not only got put back in, she won. Or at least she did for about an hour. Producers discovered Preston had worked as an escort, and thus they decided to go and strip her of the crown in the final hours of production for the final episode. Preston was, needless to say, furious about this and spoke about it in interviews. "I was in a very, very tough spot. I did some things for money that I'm not proud of," Preston said. "It was escorting. I had to survive. I had no money. I had no income. It was a stupid decision that lasted a month, and I got out and it came back to bite me." She also stated that she told the producers about this before being brought back for the All-Star season, and as such, she sued them for $3 million. It is believed to have been settled at a court. Number 3, The Intervention. Jael Strauss was a fan favorite when she appeared on Cycle 8 of America's Next Top Model, and America watched on as she grappled with some pretty serious personal drama during her run. In short, a friend of hers died via overdose, and she had to choose to either go home and be at her friend's funeral and honor her, or stay on the show. So, she stayed on the show, and eventually got 6th place overall in the competition. After the show, she went downhill and got addicted to meth, so much so that her family brought her to Dr. Phil, who needed to stage an intervention for her. When she tried to run away, Dr. Phil stopped her and laid it out for her.
First time in 10 years I came out here to talk to you.
Are you really convincing yourself that this is the life that you have doesn't suck? You're doing drugs, you're living in crappy hotels, you're stripping in some sleazeball joint. The model did go through with treatment, and as of 2016, she was 3 years sober. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. Number 2, the cancer diagnosis. Sadly for Jael, her trials weren't over, because years after she beat her addiction, she got hit with a diagnosis that shocked everyone. On October 2nd, I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. It has aggressively spread throughout my body and it is incurable, Strauss wrote on the Facebook post. With treatment, it may prolong my life longer than a few months. The doctor said I could make it. I don't want to die. I need another one of those miracles that I got back in 2013. She passed away 2 months after the diagnosis, and Tyra paid tribute to her on Twitter. "Top model has lost a beautiful soul," she wrote. "We will all remember Jael and her fun-loving spirit and beautiful soul." Number 1, the judging swap. If you have a show going on for a long time, you can expect turnover from hosts, judges, producers, etc., but no one saw this coming. Prior to filming the then upcoming season in 2012, Tyra Banks gave her longtime co-stars photographer Nigel Barker, mentor Jay Alexander, and creative director Jay Manuel the Axe. The trio had been with the series since its inception almost a decade prior.
Before I got the news. To soften the blow? That's what I call it.
The reason given was that the ratings were dipping a bit, and the new judges were meant to spark new interest in the show. It backfired big time, and they eventually hit all-time lows in viewership. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at the history of America's Next Top Model and the various outbursts, scandals, and events that made it kind of a shock that lasted this long? Which of these scandals personally shocked you the most? Which ones do you feel are the most in line with everything that the show basically is? How long do you think it'll keep going for? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.